Partnerships are a win-win game in today's digital environment. Tie-ups with e-commerce companies, neobanks, aggregators are new sources of customer acquisition and new business lines. But what goes behind these partnerships? How are these enabled to handle real-time volumes? Our next panel discussion is on the topic BFSI CXOs building the future of BFSI on digital collaboration after a pandemic. I would like to invite Asim Parashar, Partner Financial Services, PwC, to moderate this discussion. Over to you, Mr. Parashar.
Today's topic for this panel is building the future of BFSI on digital collaboration after a pandemic. Now, there are three major terms in this particular topic. One, the future of BFSI. Two, digital collaboration. And the third is after a pandemic. So it's a very, very different kind of discussion topic that has come, because we always used to talk about digital banking, digital insurance, what is the competition, fintech. Those used to be the themes just 6 months back. Now the whole world has changed topsy-turvy, etc. And it was completely unexpected, and different kind of business models, different kind of expectations are coming up. So what we are seeing now is completely a model that is evolving, is going to be focused on collaboration, leveraging the digital technologies. The regulators are also coming up new policies, new initiatives, whether it is on the video KYC, whether coming up with a moratorium on the lending side of it, etc. So they are also understanding the complexity that we are currently facing as an industry. So that's the first part of it. And there are a couple of things which you see in all the discussions which are coming up on the digital piece of it, that it is API plus cloud and data. Now, these are the three things on which all the discussions are going around. The CEOs are also now very keenly engaged in these discussions. And that's the focus that we are seeing it. Now, without doing further much ado, let me start with the panelists. And I would like them to share their very frank view, opinions, practical experiences that they have undergone in the last 8 to 9 months. So let me start with the first questions or the discussion points. So what are the emerging focus areas of digital collaboration during the pandemic for your respective organization? We understand in the customer acquisition, in the market growth, etc. We have seen in the food industry or the retail industry, they have shown immense profit and growth, etc. So how is the BFSI sector shaping up in the last 8 to 9 months? So let me start with Mr. Anand Pejawar from SBI Life, who heads the operations, IT, and international business. Now, over to you, Anand.
Thanks, Asim. Thanks for inviting me on this panel. And very true, as you just mentioned, if we were discussing any of these seminars 6 months, 8 months back, probably the questions would have been different. The most used word nowadays of a new thing which we are talking of, they would not have been there. Yes, for the life insurance company, the whole scenario has changed since March 20th, 2020. Why I'm saying March 20th is all of us know that the Janta lockdown curfew was announced, and then 24th onwards, the lockdown happened. And for any insurance business, whether it is life or non-life, March 31st is one of the major quarters where I think almost 30% of the business happens in the last quarter. And out of that also almost 15 to 20% business happens in the last month of that financial year. And this drastically was hit due to this pandemic. So we lost almost business for 15 days. The entire industry lost business for almost 15 days. Not only that, the companies were struggling to, with the challenge of customer connectivity during this period. What I mean by connectivity is, how do you stay communicated with the customer and informing him of what exactly is happening and what is it that he or she is supposed to do with the product that they have bought from us. That's the biggest challenge that we had. In the same time, the regulator also came up proactively and gave a moratorium of 2 months for all the policies which were due in the month of April and including the last part of March, and they were given time to be paid for a certain period ahead. Not only that, even the maturities which were up for in the month of April and May, we were asked to specifically connect with each of the customer and get a settlement option, whether they wanted full or they wanted in nothing. So this was a big challenge for the insurance company to get connected with the end customer and get it done. So that was part one. I will not get into the details right now because we will cover it in the subsequent questions when it comes up. The second biggest challenge that we had from the life insurance point was life insurance, as we all know, was more of a face-to-face selling. Till you don't meet the customer either through the agency force or through the bank assurance channel or through corporate agency channel. All over India, the online sales is just about 2%. So it is absolutely like negligible. Nothing really is sold on online, if you look at it from that sense. But here was a scenario where face-to-face selling was becoming an issue, and you had to change the entire model of sales to ensure that the distributor is not getting impacted with the pandemic. The customer is comfortable discussing with him, understanding everything what he's supposed to buy with full clarity, and then getting into the sale part of it. So that was on the distributor side. And the last issue, I think the challenge which all the insurance companies had, or rather for all the companies during this pandemic, was the employees. Most of us work from brick and mortar offices. Now here from brick and mortar, you were forced to move out and work from home environment. I remember when we had a discussion at one of these seminars, people were saying work from home is offered by very few companies as a staff incentive or an HR incentive to make, saying that ours is a company which allows employees to work from home. And I think this is what the pandemic heard, and he said, okay, let me make everybody work from home. But this was a huge challenge from the IT side and from the operation side. This was a huge challenge because within the shortest span of time, I remember, at least for my company, within 72 hours, we had to move the entire working of the operations from brick to mortar to work from home, either through VPN or VDI, and get the whole thing done, including the treasury transactions, which are so very important and which could not stop. Plus the March ending, the closure of March was coming in. So that was another huge challenge which we had. So we had to do the closure of the financial year, the statutory audit of the financial year. We had to continue with the day-to-day activities, all critical functions to be working exactly the way it is required. And most importantly, all my systems had to be working 24/7. This was the biggest challenge that we had. Lockdowns everywhere, the containment areas being declared, people not allowed to move out because of the pandemic, and huge amount of challenges which were completely unheard or unseen in the past is where I think all of us have been seeing in this industry. And this is something which I think has taught us a lot of things, which will make, I think, digital and IT both a front runner in almost every organization now on, because I have seen a huge amount of advancement which has happened in the digital sector, in the IT segment, and people and companies investing in huge amount, looking at this challenge and how do we get. So I think in short, we were having three major challenges, one from the customer end, one from the distributor end, and one from the employees part of it. And I think all the companies in every sector now what we have done exceedingly well to meet this challenge and see how best you could take care of the customers, employees, and the stakeholders. So this is something I think which is something very, very creditable, which has come out from the pandemic, if I look at it from the positive side of the pandemic that has happened.
So thanks, Anand. And you have raised very, very important point out there. And again, I would say that personally, I being in the financial services sector, I take pride in the last 9 months that how you all have worked and made it happen and nothing is stopped. And that's the phenomena which was, and we have been interacting with our counterparts in Italy, etc. And for them, a lot of these things have completely stopped. But whereas in India, we were able to continue running the operations. And so, yes, initially there was a shock, but the people have come out very, very aggressively in a very short duration. So that's a very, very good insight. So I will move over to Girish, because now from life insurance, the customer is very different and the relationship is very different. Whereas in the general insurance, it all depends on the business, how it is moving ahead in that particular period. If the transactions are more, the business is more. In other sector, the insurance also moves out both on the retail and the corporate side of it. So Girish, your experience during this whole 8 and 9 month, how you have transitioned, what are the challenges that you faced and what are the learnings that you have gained?
Thanks, Asim, and thanks for having me on this panel. I think Anand has done a very good job of actually summarizing the whole impact of the pandemic on whether he talked about life industry, but similar for the general. And there was a WhatsApp forward going around in the beginning of just a month after the pandemic hit. It said, who is responsible for digital transformation in your company? CTO, COO, CEO, COVID. So I think that is in short what Anand kind of put it, that COVID has caused the kind of transformation that we would as a CTO or CEO take maybe 3 to 5 years to kind of put in place. It did almost overnight. So it's not that we didn't have many of these tools, many of the platforms for be it the customer or the agent or any of the distributors to digitally collaborate with us. The use was not as high as it's now. You see it after COVID, because there was always a physical channel. The agent could always come to the branch, and he always liked to come to the branch, give his proposals out there, and kind of have a chat with the person in the branch. So all that was a part of the way they functioned, and suddenly that was taken away, and perforce they had to do everything digitally, use the app to send all your proposals, do all the payments through the app. Everything was done digitally, and then they found out how convenient a digital mode is. So it's kind of now, I don't think there's going back to the physical mode once we get out of the pandemic. There will of course be physical interactions, but they'll be for some other stuff, but not for doing mundane things like transactions, which we were trying to push onto the digital mode earlier anyway. So I think that's a big change that has been caused by the whole COVID and the COVID-related lockdown. The other thing, like Anand mentioned, of course, is the whole concept of work from home. And earlier, if someone said like, look, tomorrow I'm working from home, there's a very knowing smile. Okay, theek hai, chutti le raha hai, so it's it's a so you're kind of giving it a nice name. But now, since everyone is working from home, now there's no concept of anyone taking off. And I think the thing of looking at working from home as something which is different is now gone. I mean, working from home is as much as as good as working from office. And I think once we come back, and Anand did mention the new normal that people talk about, one has really not defined what a new normal is. And if you want to look at what a new normal will be after we come back after the pandemic, it would be probably a mix of office and remote working. You can't say just office is great or just remote working is great. You need a mix of both. And I think organizations would move towards a blended mix of uh, office plus remote working, are going to really take advantage of the learnings that they have got through the pandemic in the whole employee related area of this. Because the whole remote working does have a lot of advantages. Working in office too has its advantages, but we need to complement both and take a good mix of both. The last part is about how we communicate with even the customers and the agents. I mean, that's also changed significantly in terms of the mediums we are using now, and they're getting comfortable with it. Earlier, travel used to be a inherent part of every salesperson's job. I mean, he had to go meet or travel all over the country to meet agents, have meets with them. So physical meetings were mandatory. Now we do meetings completely digitally, and because we are doing it digitally, we can have at one time many more people join in, so it kind of improves the effectiveness of the meetings. Of course, we will go back to having physical meetings, because physical meetings are required to have the face to face. But a lot of training, lot of new product launch, doing it digitally becomes a very fast and quick way of disseminating information, which now people have got used to. Earlier, there was not a great deal of comfort with using these digital medium. Now, because of everyone using Zoom, Teams, WebEx, or whatever other technologies are there for face-to-face virtual communication, all these are now commonplace, and people are used to it, and people are now more accepted of the fact that we can do all these things over virtual meetings. So that's a one big change also that will happen in the way we communicate with the distribution channel. So there are lots of changes that take place in each and every aspect. I think once we come out of pandemic, it's a mix of what we used to do earlier and what we are doing now when we are locked down, and that's going to make us stronger as we come out of this.
No, thanks, Girish, because that's quite interesting what we have seen. And you raised one very valid point. The new normal is still not defined. It will take some time to arrive at the new normals post-pandemic. So now let me invite Ganesh, because he comes from the new generation banking with a very different business model that was proposed and has been working. So Ganesh, what has been your experience during this whole period, and what are the changes that you have seen which you believe is going to be detrimental on building the future? Over to you, Ganesh.
Thanks, Asim. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have this conversation. To us, we saw three key customer changes, and I want to talk about the customer changes, on which we've been actually working on. One is obviously because of the pandemic, there is a large section of India who now wanted to move from offline ways of working to online ways of working, be it doing simple things like recharges, bill payments, and so on and so forth. Obviously, the need to stay connected continued, and hence helping them do a transaction digitally, I think was, possibly the single biggest challenge for us. A lot of customers, started embracing technology, started doing transactions for the first time, making sure that they have a great experience, making sure that the journeys are simple for them to, feel comfortable with, and they come regularly, I think was possibly the single biggest challenge. Because, for example, when you go to a new restaurant for the first time, you don't like the food, chances are you're not likely to go back to the restaurant again. This was, that kind of an experience where when customers used our app, unless and until they felt comfortable with the flows, the success rates, and so on and so forth, chances are they won't come back. And we've seen, at least in the context of Airtel and Airtel Payments Bank, that we've actually seen our digital transactions grow significantly, even pre-pandemic. I think that was the first impact. The second impact, again, for people like all of us who are digitally savvy, who did a lot of digital transactions, now all of a sudden, the entire world revolved around possibly an app or a set of digital apps. Be it buying groceries, be it paying your electricity bill payments, be it doing transactions on e-commerce platforms, and so on and so forth, or even buying things like insurance. And I'm sure Girish and Anand would sort of acknowledge. We've seen on our own platform that small ticket insurances, especially around COVID or on hospicash and things like that, have actually grown very, very significantly. So the need for some of this, the awareness for some of this, has actually gone up quite significantly. I think that's a second key change. The third change, really, and this is a large part of Airtel Payments Bank customers, is consumers in Tier 5 and Tier 6 in rural India. More than 2/3 of our customers are in rural, and our single biggest reason, for being in the business to serve rural India. A lot of consumers in rural India, thanks to the government and subsidies, got lots of subsidies, and the need to withdraw cash was very, very critical. Again, India with more than 700,000 villages, possibly only 70,000 ATMs in rural, withdrawing cash at a nearby retail outlet was very, very critical. And so our real focus has really been about building the BC agent framework in deep rural, ensuring that customers, at a 1 kilometer distance or a half a kilometer distance could actually withdraw cash using APS, I think has been a real focus. And I do believe that, these three things have positively impacted, possibly the industry for all players who work in this space. And I think that's really been our challenge. In addition to that, I fully agree with what Anand and Girish said about internal ways of working, working from home being the new normal, the new normal actually not yet being defined, and working in a manner in which, we are possibly as effective, not more effective, while working from home and while working remotely. So that's really, what I would say, Asim, have been the three key big shifts for us, or what we see, the way in which consumers have dealt with in the pandemic.
Well, thanks, Ganesh. That's quite important. And two key things you brought in. One is the experience and transition from offline to online. That had to be a seamless, otherwise people would have dropped off. And the second is possibility on apps, exploring all aspects of your life on a set of applications or what something which you brought in. And which brings me to the second point of it on the collaboration piece of it. So let me just move ahead with the collaboration. So there were certain collaboration which was built during this period, which was more on need basis. Now, what are the key considerations which you believe is to sustain this digital collaboration in the post-pandemic time? And how you are going to see or shaping of the market and your business model, that what are the kind of ecosystem, what are the kind of partnerships that you are looking at it, both at the customer acquisition side of it, at your expanding your market reach, identifying new customer segments, new product development, new solution development, and also providing new technology which is coming from different players. So let me bring in here Anand, and how does he see the new environment or the new normal? Let us take an attempt to define the new normal with collaboration at the center of it. So over to you, Anand.
Yeah, Asim, as far as the infrastructure on the IT and digital part goes for life insurance, I think we have to look at two things. One is the heart of any life insurance company is the policy management system or the core system that we use. And in India, you have just about 2 or 3 main players in that particular field, which all the 24 companies are basically using. And then each organization, based on the model they operate, based on what exactly they would like to offer, how they would like to offer, and what kind of partnerships they have, they go on developing these systems on the periphery of this BFS. Now, typically in life insurance, what happened was, if I talk about SBI Life on the digital partnerships and collaborations, we started this digital journey right from 2017. And we looked at 3 different areas. One is the sourcing part. The sourcing part in life insurance is very, very critical, because if you typically go 5 years back and see, you had some 12 to 16 page proposal form which had to be filled up. And then you had to attach a lot of documents, your salary certificate, your Form 16, your whole lot of things to ensure that you get insured. And there was a study conducted not only in India, but internationally, why people desist from buying life insurance. And this was the main reason, that your sourcing system or the sourcing mechanism is so tedious that people lose interest in that entire journey. So the biggest challenge for all the life insurance companies was, how do we ensure we bring in digital collaboration as far as the sourcing part or the front end part is concerned? Now, typically we'll have 3 ends here: front end, middle end, and the back end. So I'll just take you through that journey and how the collaboration part pre-pandemic and post-pandemic have actually spun out. So we started with this various apps. Again, going back, apps is the talk of the town nowadays. So anything you want to do, you can easily do it. Fastest way of is getting into an app. So we had our own app called the Smart Advisor, where it's like an SBI Life office in the pocket of a distributor. So everything what he wants, every bit of information that is required is available on this particular app for a distributor. Now that was the front end. Then we had a sourcing. So how do I make this filling of the form very, very easy for the customer? So then we went in for a digital solution there, which we call it as M-Connect, where it's completely digitized. In fact, I call it paperless, penless kind of issuance of the policy. So all the details that you have, you put it into the your mobile application that is there and sync it. The moment it gets synced, it automatically talks with various partners at the back end. For example, if you are a PAN card holder, if you put a PAN card, it automatically talks with NSDL through an API integration and gives the information that is required, or that can be shared with the permission of the customer. So you have the first level of KYC happening then and there itself. So you understand. Earlier, till almost 20th of October 2018, most of the insurance companies were global AUA, KUA with UID. So we had a direct API integration with the UID server, which gave us the HTML screen of the data, what is there, and we could compare it with the information given in the proposal form, and that KYC was taken into consideration as a final KYC. Post that, it is the NSDL and other things that we have integrated with Apple. Now, if you're also a bank borrower and if your details are available with the credit bureau, then there is an integration which happens back end to give us your credit score. So each company along with the reinsurer have decided for which product, what kind of credit scores are acceptable, not acceptable, approximation of your income based on the credit score, and all that is worked out. So you don't have to give your income details up to a certain level. So For a large size of premium, it is not required. Beyond a level, only we ask for the financial documents to be given. And the last bit of piece is where you can actually open a demat account for your policies, which is called e-repository. So we have e-repositories, 4 of them authorized by IRDA, and they have a direct linkage. So right from the time you log in your business through this M-Connect, which is a digital option available to the customer and the distributor to key in his details in the policy, right up to the stage of issuance of the policy, there is no paper transaction that is required for large number of people. So today, technically, 99.8% of my business flows through this digital medium. Now, the challenge for the insurance companies is the front end is today completely digitized. How do we now connect and transform the mid end, which is very, very important, where for a life insurance company, the large portion of underwriting happens of the risk. And this becomes a very, very crucial part of it. And here, I think, especially even taking the pandemic into consideration and all other things where physical connectivity was an issue, physical traveling was an issue, getting information was an issue. Lot of companies, including SBI Life, have moved into the analytical bit of piece where we use a lot of analytics right from the underwriting side. So new business underwriting, you have the workflow, you put these analytics in place. It gives a lot of information that is available to you. There is a huge repository which is now available through the Insurance Information Bureau of India, IIBI. And we again have an API integration with them. So we get the online real-time information about a customer when we ask for it, about his existing policies, what is it, how many policies it is rated up, how many policies have been rejected. So this helps the underwriter to underwrite the risk at the right time, at the right price, and in the right manner, which is very, very important. Positive things that have happened. And to make this end goal achievable, every company has taken a lot of effort to put digital things in place.
So thanks, Anand. That's quite encouraging. So now let me move over to Girish. And Girish, I will ask a question which is very relevant to the industry, is the third-party risk management. And as part of your general insurance, you have tie-ups with service providers, whether on the motor side of it or on the health side of it. So there are a lot of benefits through digital collaboration, etc. And there are also risks associated with it on the customer data privacy, that how it is getting impacted during collaboration. So what is your experience in this space, and especially during the pandemic, and what do you see as the new evolution as we move beyond the pandemic?
If you look at a macro level, if you look at the major impacts of the pandemic, one, we already spoke about the accelerated digital transformation that's happening. We spoke about remote working. What we've also seen across is the whole global supply chain being disrupted, and talk of de-risking of the supply chain. So if you look at some of the studies that look at what are the major risks that you see emanating out of the pandemic, you look at supply chain risk, talent risk, and also cyber security risk. I think one thing which we need to realize is suddenly when the entire service sector workforce starts working from home instead of working from office, the kind of security risk you expose the businesses to is immense. Because the earlier concept of security was everyone comes to office, there is a nice perimeter, and within the perimeter you work and you're all safe and secure. Not too many controls inside, so everything is nice and fine. And very once in a while someone goes out, so he has to have all the controls in place. But suddenly everyone is working outside the perimeter. There is a lot of security and controls that you need to put in place, but at the same time you can't make the controls and security so oppressive that people can't carry on the day-to-day work. So there has to be a right balance of both, and I think companies are investing in that. But at the same time, that also exposes them to a higher amount of cybersecurity risk that one sees, and that's something that we need to guard against. The in The other point, like Anand mentioned, is on terms of how we evaluate risk in terms of underwriting, and that's something that is also an important aspect. And there, I think a lot of importance will be given now and going ahead to technologies like AI and ML to help in evaluating those risks, because uh, underwriting is not simple rule-based decisioning, right? It's not. If it was rule-based decisioning, the whole force of underwriters could be sacked, and you just write a set of rules and you're done with it. You have to take some intelligent decisions out there which are going to be evaluating that risk. So and that's why AI/ML comes in, and it helps you basis what you have been doing earlier, try and give you a good evaluation of what the incoming risk is. And we have used some of the AI/ML tools, even underwriting part, even the claims management part, and those we have significantly scaled up during the whole pandemic period. For our in the hospitalization, and this is very relevant during the COVID part, where you get into hospital and you need instant approval for your hospital, the authorization of the amount that you're entitled to. Now there we put a AI/ML solution in place. Earlier, something that used to take about 2 hours, 1.5 to 2 hours on average, we get down to 90 seconds, because the entire thing is done using AI model which decides whether the claim is medically admissible or not, and then there's a machine learning model which decides the amount that is admissible. And within 90 seconds, any time of the day or night, you can get your this. So we had put this tool in place quite some time back. When we about a year and a half back, when we started off, we were only at 5% approvals through this tool. We had, before the pandemic, we were at about 40-45% was going through this tool, which was getting approved by the tool. Remaining was, of course, going to a human person out there, usually a doctor who used to take the decision. Now, as of last month, we are at almost 70% of the AL authorization letter approvals going through this tool for our corporate cashless approvals. So that's the scale of this, and that's how AI helps you to put your risk management in place for this. Similarly, Anand talked about the tele underwriting, that we do the similar thing for health underwriting. Now there we have put a voice bot in place. So the initial screening is done by the voice bot. So there are a few questions the voice bot asks, and if the answers are acceptable, then the underwriting is done then and there. You don't need to transfer it to a doctor for doing the further underwriting. But if it's a slightly more complex case, then it's transferred to a doctor. So it kind of takes a significant portion of the, almost more than 50% of the cases are able to be handled by the voice bot itself. Only the remaining go to a doctor. So again, that takes the load off the doctors. They can do better underwriting for the case, for more complex cases that go on to them. So there are various ways in which we can manage risk using the tools available today, and especially AI/ML is something that will really, as time goes by, it's kind of taken root during the pandemic, but post pandemic you'll see a lot more of AI/ML being used in many of the risk management strategies that yeah, whether insurance organization or any other organization uses.
Now, thanks, Girish, because that's quite encouraging. And I believe all your partners, etc., will also go through this process, and they will also kind of accelerate the usage of AI ML on that part of it. Thanks. Now let's move to on the interaction of the customer. So let me go over to Ganesh. Now, Ganesh, what are the changes you are seeing in the way customers are interacting with your organization? And how is your internal business models are evolving post-pandemic? What is your view on that?
Okay. Thanks, Asim. As far as our internal organization is concerned, to be honest, we needed to change very little, because we started off, when we launched ourselves in early 2017 as a digital first, possibly a digital only bank. So to that extent, internally there were very little changes we need to do to our processes, because all our processes, be it opening an account, withdrawing cash, if you want to buy an insurance policy from a BC agent, all of them were fully technology driven, were fully digital, and all of the transactions happened instantly. So to that extent, I think there were changes which were very little. However, obviously with the pandemic coming in, as I mentioned earlier, we needed to handhold customers from doing the transactions from a physical offline standpoint to online. Making sure that the capacity, within the organization was augmented to ensure that we took in the additional transactions. Excessive focus on customer experience, the user journeys, so that, as and when customers, interacted with our platforms, they had a very, very good experience. I think that was important. And C, possibly the most important aspect for us, the most important metric which was important for us is on success rates. Making sure that customers had 95% plus, ideally 99% plus levels of success rates as and when they interacted with our platforms, when they did various transactions. I think those were extremely, extremely critical aspects, on which we had to, spend a lot more time on than what we would do normally, to ensure that, as and when customers came in, they felt good about it, and they really had the need to actually use our platform again and again. So I think those were, what I would say, Asim, the key, changes which we had to sort of undertake.
Sure. Thanks, Ganesh. So now let me move to a question which is important for all the industry, and I will open it for all the three of you. So what is the support that BFSI industry should seek from regulators to make digital collaboration a bigger reality? We have seen IRDA setting up a sandbox. We have seen RBI setting up a sandbox. So what are the key areas of regulatory interventions that can accelerate digital collaboration during and after the pandemic? So let me start with Anand on this, and then we'll go around. Anand, over to you. Support from the regulators.
Support from the regulator, very frankly, I think insurance industry has been getting very good support from the regulator. They are very proactive, especially during this pandemic area. If you look at all the guidelines or the regulations they brought out, pertaining right from allowing us to go without a wet signature, being a contract. Now, life insurance is the longest contract that is available in any financial sector today. So, we are issuing policies for 40 years, 50 years, whole life. For a 30-year-old guy, if I issue a whole life policy, it goes up to 69 years beyond that. So up to his age of 99. So that's the kind of documentation that we need to do and preserve and keep on updating it. So for all these things, whatever is required from the regulator side, I personally feel that we are getting very good thing from the regulator. I think Girish will also agree with me because both of us were working, he from the non-life side and I from the life side, along with some of our partners on the blockchain technology. Now, this is an area where we have been collaborating with the regulator. We have been collaborating with our own industry people to come out with some kind of regulation where blockchain becomes a very, very important part of the entire journey for the customer. And if this has been brought in, and if we are successful in getting this done, I think this will ease off a lot of pain points of all the stakeholders, be it the customer, be it the regulator, be it the employee, whichever way you look at it. And both of us have been talking, and we have also made presentations to the regulator to try. They were very positive. They are giving us very positive vibes that yes, what you people are doing is very good. As an industry, we have done 2 POCs from the life side, non-life side. They have done good POCs. I think Girish can talk about it as to how he's actually running a blockchain technology and how wonderful advantages they can get. Now, this is an area where I personally feel that if we are in a position to bring this in reality and collaborate non-life and life companies together, I think the kind of quality of business that is done in India and the kind of underwriting of the risk that happens both for life and non-life will substantially improve. And this is going to have a huge, huge impact on everything, right? Including the profitability of the companies that is there. And this is an area where I feel we need to definitely push and get certain things in place. But very frankly, as far as life insurance is concerned, I think I'm very happy with the way the regulator has been proactively supporting and giving us the things that are required to tide over the situation. Digitally, it's not too much where the regulator comes in the way. Let me be very frank with you, because whatever digital applications have been put in place, whatever things have been done, it is more at our individual company level how it is done. Yes, there are a few, how should I say, gray areas as far as the cloud technology implementation is concerned, which again, we are in discussion with the regulators on that front to try and see how we can get clarity and how we can implement the cloud technology. But as of now, that is an area where I think most of the companies are having some understanding issue. It is nothing to do with the regulator, but understanding issue of how these cloud technology can be actually implemented for various reasons. Whether the backup server is in India, not in India, whether the data is in India, not in India, can it be given? So a whole lot of questions which some of the service providers are also not in a position to answer the way it is required. But yes, I think these two things, one on the cloud technology and another on the blockchain technology, I think if these two things can be done, I think India would be a fantastic country to show the world of how these technologies can be actually used in business like entire BFSI, whether it is banking, whether it is NBFC, whether it is general insurance, life insurance, credit cards.
The birth certificate and death certificate. So a citizen's life has now been put on blockchain. West Bengal government has done that. Now that will be a surprising thing, but they have done it. So you can go to any of the district. If somebody has been born in West Bengal, his date of birth until so it's now readily available on that part. So definitely it's a very good inputs, and I believe yes, the industry has been moving in that direction, and with some amount of support it will move ahead. Let me go over quickly to Girish to share his viewpoint on the general insurance side of it. Anything specific that he would like the support from the regulators, or which you believe is a gray area where some more interventions are required? Girish, over to you.
The problem going after Anand is like he is so comprehensive.
I agree. So I should have just switched the thing. I take that in. No, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, he's given a pretty good summary. He's covered blockchain bit also, which both of us were working on together from our respective parts of the industry. He did mention cloud, though on there I can say that as ICICI Lombard, we are within the framework that is allowed right now. We are using cloud, and we'll be moving larger portion of our business to the cloud in the next few months. So that's but yes, I mean there is while the current regulations provide some this, but a bit more clarity would help in that regard, especially when you're looking at some of the SaaS providers, software as service providers. Those are some of the issues that would need to be addressed. Apart from that, I think, like Anand said, the regulator has been proactive in allowing a lot of things to be done digitally. Uh, One request to them would be that while some of the forbearance has been given for the period of the pandemic, and some of that should continue beyond the pandemic. I mean, digital, not having the wet signatures and having the digital is something, once you have accepted it for
I agree on that, Girish.
continue beyond that as well. I mean, there's really no reason to go back to old ways if the new ways are found to be equally appropriate. And that's my limited addition to what.
No, thanks, Girish, because that's a very, very good input also. Because wet signature in the FS sector is the need of the hour now, and with all the OTPs and two-factor authentication and video and etc. coming in, I think we have a positive out here. Now I'll just quickly move on to Ganesh to his inputs on the support needed from the regulator side of it in the banking sector. Ganesh, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Asim. Asim, my own view is, I think the onus is really on us to use some of the, opportunities which all the regulators have given to really drive innovation and make life really simple for the customer. You mentioned, the regulatory sandboxes, both from IRD and RBI. Specifically on RBI, I think the sandboxes involving payments, especially in the area of payments via feature phones, payments for offline and contactless payments, I think those are three massive areas for which, some amount of work we've already started doing. And we do hope that we'll be able to sort of bring it live soon for customers. I think the onus is really on us to really see how we can actually simplify life for customers on that front. I think Anand mentioned earlier that RBI, several months back had come up with the circular for VA KYC. A lot of banks are already live. We are going to be live in a few days, possibly. I think really using all of this technology to really simplify payments, I think is the core agenda. And I think that's what I would, say, Asim.
Thanks, Ganesh. So we are on the hour. So I would personally like to thank all the panelists for your very engrossing discussion with very practical and pragmatic viewpoints, and positive and open also, because that's what the audience would like to hear and take some good insights for their business, because that's a very enlightened audience. And the best part is that we all are positive that this pandemic has, yes, hit the business, but it has also given us an opportunity to look to the future, build the foundation for the future, leveraging technology, but not leaving aside or beside the human intervention, because the humans are going to be augmented and enabled by the technology. So thank you all. Thanks for and wish you all the best for this financial year.
Thank you, Asim. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Girish. Thanks, Ganesh.
Thanks, Anand.
Thank you everyone for the detailed discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, keep sharing your feedback on social media by using the hashtag ETBFSI CXO. Stay connected for the next session.